Hello and welcome to Odds Checkers NFL Prop Show. What's going on? I am Matt O'Leary, joined as always by Derek Carty and Geoff Fienberg. Heading into week 7 here last week. Here's how we did. I went 2-2 to bring me to 9-15. Geoff 2-2 as well, 13-11 so far on the year. Derek coming in at 3-1 in week 6 to bring him to a solid 5-3 so far. As always, we will get it started with a passing prop. We will kick it to Derek first. What jumps out to you this week?
Yeah, I think there's actually quite a few interesting passing props this week, but I'm going to go with Carson Wentz under 229.5 passing yards, -120. Wentz has, I think, surprised people a little bit this year with being better than people thought he was, but he does play half of his games at home in the Dome in Indianapolis. And that's not going to be the case this week. He's on the road. He's in San Francisco. He's outside the Dome. It's open air. And San Francisco is a very, very slow-paced offense. This projects as one of the slowest-paced games on the slate. And so I don't see a lot of volume for Wentz. It's also pretty windy, at least as of right now. It's a little early, but it's looking like it'll be pretty windy, not the best weather. And so I think the under on Wentz here is the way to go.
All right, absolutely. Geoff, over to you. What's a passing one that jumps out?
That was a pretty good sell job there on Wentz. For me, I am going to Sam Darnold over 238.5 to the over. It's been an ugly scene for Carolina over the past few weeks. Drops have been killing them as well. And Darnold, Matt Rule really did call out his quarterback and the offense in his post game and his weekly pressers this week. I think there's a great spot for Carolina and the offense, the Panthers and their offense to show some of those early season strengths and Darnold to that over 238.5.
All right, there you go. I'm going to head on over to Chicago and Tampa Bay and take a look at Justin Fields over 218.5 at -115. The Tampa Bay Bucks have allowed more yards than that in 5 of their 6 games this year. When you look at Tampa's secondary, they are extremely banged up. And I know this would be a relatively big number for Justin Fields, who hasn't quite gotten to that point early in his career just yet. But if there's ever a defense to do it, I think it's against this Tampa Bay defense who, let's face it, they have a bunch of guys out right now. So I'm all over Justin Fields on the over at 218.5 right there. We can get on to a rushing one now. We're going to throw it back over to Derek. What do you got for us?
Yeah, I'm going to maybe skirt the rules just a little bit here. As of right now, there's only a few guys with carry props, so I didn't see any that I loved. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take Matthew Stafford over 293.5 passing plus rushing yards. I hope that counts. There's rushing in there. Yeah. But I just don't see a whole lot that I like in terms of just the limited number of carry props we have available. -115. I like this spot a lot for Stafford. A lot of this is coming from the passing. Obviously, he's not really a rushing quarterback, but Detroit has played at a very fast pace this year, so this is a pace-up spot for Stafford. He's at home. He's in the Dome. They have the highest team total on the board. There is a concern with game script. If they blow them out, maybe he won't be throwing the whole game. But I do think there's a great chance for him to get there. He's facing a very weak defense. He's a good quarterback, good weapons. I see him going over this fairly easily. My projection system, the Blitz, has him projected for, I think, closer to 330 or 340 here.
All right, there we go. Let's head on over to Geoff now. What do you got?
Well, I'm also going to take a quarterback this week, but strictly rushing. And for me, you got to continue to pick on the Tennessee Titans as it pertains to quarterback rushing yards. Patrick Mahomes is the lucky one this week. And lucky for us, that number sits at just 19.5 yards to the over. I guess use that grid, find the best number. But all these quarterbacks have been hitting it. Trevor Lawrence, Kyler Murray. You just line them up versus Tennessee. They have injuries on the back end. They'll have to be doing everything they can to contain the targets that are, the Kansas City Chiefs. The game's got a total of 57.5. there will be so many opportunities for Mahomes to take those free first downs with his feet. 19.5 honestly feels like a gift, like something's up.
All right, I love that, Geoff. For me, I'm going to go with Chuba Hubbard over 73.5 yards at minus 115. The New York Giants have allowed the fourth most rushing yards in the NFL so far. And with Sam Darnold's struggle, I think Rule has kind of hinted at getting back to their identity of running the football. So for me, I think it's just going to be a matter of trying to get that offense going in terms of the run game, and against the Giants defense, I think that they should be able to do just that. To receivers, receiving props, we go. What do you got for us, Derek?
Yeah, I'm going to hit Darren Waller's receiving yards prop, 59.5, negative 115. This is a game environment that I like a lot. Philadelphia is the fastest pace offense in football right now. Las Vegas played at a slightly faster pace last week without John Gruden. They've been a lot more pass heavy this year in general. Philadelphia has been very pass heavy. I see this as the kind of game that's going to be very fast paced, back and forth, the potential for a lot of points to be scored, and at the very least, a lot of plays to be run. And that's a good thing when we're talking about volume props. Darren Waller, obviously one of the best tight ends in the league, has had a couple down games recently, which I think is kind of influencing this line. But given how good the game environment is, given how good the matchup is, and given what his normal level of volume is, I think 59.5 is too low for him.
All right, there we go. Over to Geoff now.
I as well am going to the tight end position. Certainly nobody with that skill set of Darren Waller. But last time the New York Jets played, I picked on them with Kyle Pitts at tight end. And this time for me, it's going to be Hunter Henry over 3.5 receptions for Hunter Henry in this game. Henry started training camp with an injury, came into the season slowly, but we are now into week 7. Mac Jones, the offense that Bill Belichick wanted to create with those multiple tight ends and all that they spent their money on in the offseason, and the confidence that they do have in Mac Jones, I feel like they're finally able to run what they thought they would be able to at full speed at this point. While the Jets are getting a bit healthier at safety, there still could be linebacker questions. The Jets excel, if anything, with their run stop. And I believe this will allow for the opportunities for Belichick to get his tight ends involved, mainly Hunter Henry, over 3.5 receptions.
All right, there you go. I'm going to go with Cordero Patterson over 39.5 receiving yards here at minus 115. That just seems way low considering the last 4 weeks that he's had. He's gone over that number in each of the last 4 games. And the Miami Dolphins have really been struggling on the defensive side of the ball. There's definitely questions there. They're sitting at just 1-5 to start this year. So clearly some issues there. And I think with Patterson, I mean, he's kind of showed the last few weeks here that he has been one of the more focal point guys in this Atlanta offense. I think he clears the number again. So let's go back around one more time. We got a bonus one. What sticks out, Derek?
I'm going with Derek Carr for all the reasons that I liked Darren Waller. I like Derek Carr here. It projects as the fastest paced game on the slate. They're at home. They're in a dome. Should be a lot of passing, a lot of plays run. And Derek Carr is so underrated. He's one of the better quarterbacks in football, and I don't think a lot of people consider him that at this point. But he is. He's efficient. He's good. And I really like the over here, 28.5, negative 115. I haven't projected 328, so it's a big gap, and I think the over is the sharp bet here.
All right, there you go. Over to Geoff.
Yeah, I don't know, Matt. I might have to pull an on-the-fly pivot because the game I gave you, I think the line changed drastically from when we spoke this morning. My initial suggestion was DeAndre Swift over receiving yards, but now I'm seeing it close to 10 yards higher than where it was just a couple hours ago. So either I've gone mad or I totally have misread how this board was going to read. So I guess I don't feel comfortable giving out Swift in the mid-30s when now it's flirting in the mid-40s. So I'm going to pivot another tight end. Give me Kyle Pitts this week versus those Miami Dolphins that you mentioned earlier. They have such a hard time covering receivers in front of the stick, surprisingly. I really do like your Cordell Patterson suggestion, but over 49.5 receiving yards for Pitts, who got it going before the bye. Even with Ridley and Gage back and Cordell doing his thing, I think all that sets up even better for Pitts to be able to achieve his targets this week. The Dolphins won't know who to cover.
All right, I like that. I'm going to piggyback off of something that Derek mentioned a little earlier in the show. And for my bonus, I'm going with Matthew Stafford over 2.5 passing touchdowns at plus 110 there. I think he's going to beat up on his old team there. Obviously, a little bit of bad blood between the two sides on Detroit and LA with the quarterback swap, the big one in the offseason here. And this one to me just projects as a runaway game once again for the Rams here. And he didn't hit the yardage prop that I thought he would last week, as he ended up being taken out against the New York Giants, but he still threw for 4 touchdowns. I think he has a big day throwing, and he hits 3 or 4 this week. So there you go. Going to have to stick with us next week to see how we did, and we'll get you covered for week 8. But for Geoff Fienberg and Derek Carty, I'm Matt O'Leary. We'll talk to you next time.